Hello, my name is Miss Luong, and I'm going to be your biology teacher this year. And again, that's Luong. So in this video, what I'm sending to you is a little intro into what we'll be learning about in class. What you'll see today are different topics that will actually relate to the information that we'll be learning. So have you ever had or ever been able to do any of these things? For example, can you roll your tongue? Have you heard of MRSA? Have you ever gone on a diet? Have you ever had strep throat? Well, all of these different topics are actually going to relate to our units that we'll talk about in class. So, have you ever gone on a diet? Well, what we're going to talk about in class is how the things you eat are going to be broken down and used in your body for different building blocks that are necessary for life. And this is going to link to our unit on biochemistry. Have you ever taken an antibiotic? Well, antibiotics are actually made from fungus. And these fungus can actually kill bacteria. Now, how we first developed one of our antibiotics was an accident, but we'll talk about that later in class. Have you ever had strep throat? Well, strep throat is caused by a bacteria known as Streptococcus pyogenes. And these bacteria actually are normally found in your body, but whenever you're sick, things are a little out of sync and they can actually overgrow. So naturally, you have bacteria all over. And this will relate to cell structure. What about diarrhea? Okay, not a fun topic, but this does relate to how water is normally absorbed or excreted from your large intestine. How much or how little water is absorbed is actually going to play a factor in what type of excretions you have. And this will relate to cell processes. Have you ever known anyone with cancer? Well, we're going to learn about cell division, the cells that you normally need to just grow and develop, and how those can become cancerous. Have you ever known anyone with type 1 diabetes? Well, your body normally controls the amount of sugar in your blood with a protein called insulin. And it turns out this is going to go all the way back to their DNA and how that DNA codes for that protein. Are you able to roll your tongue? It's actually not doing the little rolling R's with your tongue, but physically rolling your tongue. Like this. Okay? And there's actually certain genes that are going to allow you to be able to roll your tongue or not roll your tongue. You can't teach yourself to be able to roll your tongue like this. You either can or you can't because of your DNA. So we'll talk about that in genetics. Have you ever left blood somewhere? Well, we're going to talk about DNA fingerprinting and biotechnology and how it's very unique to you, your DNA fingerprint. And what is a DNA fingerprint? Have you ever been able to tell red and green apart from each other? Can you read the numbers that are in this picture? Can you see that 58 right there? Well, if you can, that means you are not red-green colorblind. But if you are red-green colorblind, we'll talk about how this is more prevalent in males than females. And we'll talk about more human genetics and diseases that go along with that. Have you ever heard of MRSA? Well, we'll talk about how MRSA is actually similar to the HIV virus and how it is able to change over time and actually evolve. Have you ever had the chicken pox or did you have the chicken pox vaccine? These two things we will be talking about when we discuss health and diseases. Have you ever had a headache? Well, it turns out that if you have a really, really bad headache, it could be because of a protus that has gone into your brain. A brain-eating amoeba could be causing that headache. Now, it is pretty rare, but it is possible. And we'll be talking about that when we talk about classifications of living organisms. Have you ever had poison ivy? Okay. And this we'll be talking about when we talk about plants and how they can adapt to their environment. Have you ever caught a worm? Well, we'll be actually talking about different systems in animals, and worms will be one of those systems. Have you ever caught a firefly? Well, we'll actually be talking about the chemical luciferin that causes the firefly to be able to glow and how that's an adaptation and a type of animal behavior as well. Have you ever had a tapeworm? Well, we'll talk about how this is a parasite and how it's bad for you. Have you ever had a sunburn? Well, we're going to be talking about how UV rays and how we've treated our environment can relate to skin cancer or sunburns. So all of these different things is what we're going to be learning in this class and how they relate to us. We'll talk about the main topics in biology and then link it back to you and hopefully make it really meaningful to you. But there are 2 questions that I want you to think about, and if you can have a minute to email me back your answers to these questions, that would be great. Or just take a minute to jot them down on a piece of paper. The number 1 says, if you could design the biology curriculum, what would you want to learn? Do you think that there should be a standardized biology curriculum that every teacher follows? Why or why not? Number 2, what is one characteristic of a good student do you think would be most important to learning biology? Okay, is learning ever easy? Why or why not? So take a minute to answer those 2 questions. Either, hopefully you'll be able to email them back to me. And there's actually 2 more questions because this section talks a little bit more about learning. And learning in this class is going to be maybe a lot different from the classes that you've experienced before. But before we go into how we're going to learn in this class, I want you to take a minute again to answer what is the hardest part of a class? What's the hardest part of being in class? And what is the easiest part? And these 2 you actually don't need to email back to me, but just take a minute to think about those. As it turns out, the hardest, or actually the easiest part of class is actually taking notes. And so because of that, we'll actually be using the flipped classroom model. What this means is that really easy aspect of learning, which is simply taking notes, instead of having to stand before you and you furiously trying to copy down notes really quickly, but we're going to do something a little different. At home, for homework each night, you're actually going to be watching a video notes lecture. And it'll be me in front of the board making some notes for you, and all you'll have to do is copy down those notes and answer a few 4 or 5 questions at the end. It'll be pretty easy. The videos will be no longer than 15 minutes, and the questions should take you no more than 5 minutes to answer. And it'll all be done online, and you'll have your handbook of notes in front of you to copy down that information. The reason why we're going to have you do your notes at home is because then that gives us time in class to work out problems, to actually apply the knowledge. Okay? This is the easy part. And this is the part where you can take as much time as you want to copy things down, because some of us like to write a little slower and it helps us be neater. And for those of us that write a little quicker, well, you have that flexibility. You can pace it to yourself. But during class, that means we'll actually be able to have time to apply the knowledge, and I'll be right there with you to help you out. Answer any questions that you have about those problems, those questions. After we're done applying that knowledge, you can actually check your understanding, and we'll have some quizzes and tests in class and some practice quizzes online that you'll be able to refer to. And we'll also be able to check our understanding even further by applying it to labs in class. But the basic idea of the flipped classroom is that it's going to be very flexible. You're going to be able to watch your notes on any device that has the internet and any device that can access YouTube. So it can be a computer, a tablet, an iPad, a smartphone. Anywhere where you can access a YouTube video, you'll be able to access your notes and copy them down. The learning culture is actually going to be flipped as well. It's not going to be what's known as teacher-centered, meaning I'm in front of you all day, every day, and you're just sitting there listening and trying to absorb that all in. A lot of it now is going to be you absorbing this information, yes, from the video, but now you're going to understand or be able to write down questions you don't understand from the notes, and we're going to be able to review that the next day. And you are going to guide me in letting me know, what are you confused about? If you understand what a cell is, then I'm not going to spend 10 minutes explaining what a cell is. If you already know what a cell is, then we can talk about things that you're unsure of and make sure that we clear that up in class. The other idea of the flipped classroom, or main pillar of the flipped classroom, is this intentional content. Any assignment that I give you, any homework that I give you is going to be very intentional. I'm going to really think through and make sure that I believe that it's that's going to be worth your time, that it's going to help you cover the content and help you understand and be able to perform our objectives based on our curriculum. And the last thing is that I'm going to be your professional educator. I'm going to be there to support you all the way. Even though we're doing notes at home, which is very different for most of us, I'm still going to be there to support you, because I'll be there to answer questions the very next day, every single time. And I'll be there to cover and make sure that we hit or we understood the main topics, the main concepts from that day. And the last thing I wanted to talk about very quickly was our biology handbook. In our biology handbook, each one of you will get this on the very first day. There's going to be several tools that you'll see throughout every unit. We have 6 big units in this class that we'll be covering through the entire semester. The first thing that you'll see for each unit is a unit introduction. There's actually going to be a little article, very short clip of an article, that's going to help you get your mind into what we're talking about, get you kind of on the right track. The second thing that we'll have are outline notes and diagrams, and this is where you'll be copying down your notes from the video on. So you don't have to write down every single thing, but you'll be writing down key concepts or main ideas that are going to be most important. We also have some daily application problems. These are some of the problems that we'll be practicing in class after we've watched the video notes and after we've reviewed it well. And so you'll see this for every section as well. We'll also have most of our labs and practice assignments are all going to be found in this handbook. And the last thing that you'll see for each unit is a Unit 1 summary, and this is going to be like a big study guide for you guys, hitting the main vocabulary words, because in this class, a lot of these words are going to be very new, and it's going to be really important for you to be able to understand and apply those vocabulary terms. So that's all for the video today. Just a little reminder for you guys, if you could answer those first 2 questions, maybe kind of go back in the video a little to see those first 2 questions and just shoot me a quick email. But we'll be in room 205 this year, and the only supplies that you'll really need besides your regular paper and pencil is a 1 to a 1.5 inch binder. That's going to be perfect to hold your handbook in, and a paper folder with prompts, and that's going to be for our warm-ups each day. But that's it for today, and I'm really excited to see you guys in the next few days.